What sounds deadly but really is not? A lot of dinosaurs have been depicted in movies to be way more menacing than they actually were. Velociraptors were around the size of a goose and would probably just be a pest or annoyance to humans if they were still around. So slightly less dangerous than an actual goose. It's a Canadian goose crossbred with a resurrected velociraptor. You fool. You've doomed us all. Quote, killer whale, aka Orcus. Despite the one or two news stories in the past 2 decades, these animals really aren't that dangerous to people. Source: me. I'm not really that angry. Seemingly we are safe from them because they use echo detection and can identify that we are basically all skeleton. Seals on the other hand are not, and that's why they get preyed upon. Sharks are more deadly to us because they take a bite in order to figure it out. This guy Orcus, dihydrogen monoxide. If you inhale enough of it, you'll die. It's a common ingredient between orange juice and detergent. Dihydrogen monoxide corrodes metal. Just imagine what it does to your insides. Tyrannosaurus rex. You know, because they're all dead. That makes me wonder if there's ever been an actual case of a T-Rex killing a human. Like if its skeleton fell on someone in a museum or on an archaeological dig or something. Sharks. Nice try, Sharknado. Apparently, the author of Jaws later felt bad about how much he contributed to the stigma of sharks being super deadly and spent much of his life campaigning for their preservation. Tarantulas. More die from bee, wasp, hornet stings by far. Tarantulas kill by mere horror factor. Exactly. The shock of a random tarantula just casually making its way up your shoulder is enough to kill you. Nuclear energy. Everyone always points to 3 Mile Island, but considering the casualty toll, which was 0, it is actually a very good example of how modern nuclear energy is not dangerous to civilization. Kill switch. Engage. Asking someone out, just do it, sounds pretty dangerous. I think my wife would kill me. So true. What's the worst thing that could happen? Either she gets offended and you get a harassment suit and lose your job. Or she says yes. You eventually fall in love and get married. Then you have a few kids. Then you get divorced and forced to move into a trailer park because most of your income is spent on divorce lawyer fees, alimony and child support for kids you can't see anymore because your trailer park is an unsuitable environment for them, and you can't even afford booze to drown your sorrows in, or antidepressants to make you feel better. Just go for it? I don't remember this version of The Office. Final exams. Speak for yourself. A lot of people commit suicide because of academic stress though. The incredibly deadly viper. It's a misnomer. The North American black bear. Ursus americanus. The black bears, of all the species of bears, are actually pretty tame, are used to being around humans, rarely attack, and could be domesticated. In fact, on average, there's only 1 death in the US, Canada. Their range from a black bear attack every 3 years. That's very low considering even dogs kill in the US alone over 100 people annually. Actually my favorite bear. They are just derpy as hell, bumbling around neighborhoods looking for food and always climbing shit. We have a lot of black bears around here. Saying, not yelling, in a mildly loud voice go away works 90% of the time. Breaking your neck is more actually possible leaving you crippled than leaving you dead. My dad has broken his neck 3 times. The only permanent injury he sustained as a result was an IV was inserted wrong and caused nerve damage, resulting in him losing his sense of hot and cold in his left hand. I think your dad drank too many resistance potions in his lifetime. Greater than my dad has broken his neck 3 times. Is your dad Kurt Angle? I always thought the amount I was told as a kid to stop, drop and roll, I was going to be caught on fire a lot more. Murder hornets. I know for a fact that not one of those hornets has ever been convicted of murder. I think it's more appropriate to call them alleged murder hornets. And even that's a smear against their character. So who do we sue for defamation? The Department of the Interior. Obviously, it has their stench all over it. Winking face. The tactical flashlight. Or the tactical fleshlight. This comment is just the worst and the best at the same time. My family's screams, if you heard them, you would think there's a natural disaster in the living room, monsieur. My mom has this barbarian scream that hits you right in the lizard brain. Unfortunately, it's the same scream whether she's actively being murdered or has dropped a glass in the kitchen. Honestly, I laughed out loud at lizard brain and my husband looked at me like I was nuts. Watching the live-action Dragon Ball Evolution. As deadly as it is, you probably will survive. The first live-action Avatar: The Last Airbender. What live-action Avatar? I thought we all agreed that doesn't exist. There is no movie in Ba Sing Se. Copperhead snakes. They don't kill you. It just hurts really bad. As far as I know, not a single person has died due to a copperhead bite. But it's been a while since I've last checked up on that. Same with rattlesnakes. Only 4 to 5 Americans are killed by rattlesnakes annually. Out of thousands of bites, they can still mess you up. Though plenty of people lose the use of a couple fingers or toes after a rattlesnake bite. Sticking your head in the oven and turning on the gas. The household gas supply used to be coal gas, whose 10% carbon monoxide content could kill a person with a single breath. In 1940 to 1960 it was transitioned to natural gas. And non-toxic methane only kills through oxygen displacement. These days you'd have to stick your head in there for quite a while and avoid accidentally falling out as you faint. And I believe suicide rates went down after the transition to the less deadly gas because removing an easy method of suicide actually prevents suicide. Farts SBD all the way. You don't work with my coworkers. Meeting a deadline. The stress of not meeting it is more dangerous. Diarrhea. Edit. Leaving here for the pun value. But important to note that over 2,000 kids die daily around the world from dysentery. Death spiral in pair figure skating. Sounds pretty scary, but actually most pairs have no problem with this element, and there are many other, much harder and more dangerous. You're referring to the Iron Lotus, aren't you? What do you guys have that all other teams don't have? That enzyme in pineapple that digests your mouth a little. My mom yelling my full name. An arrow to the knee. American police interaction. Death Cab for Cutie. A lyric from a band with an even sillier name. Which is what? Bunzo Dog Doo Dah Band had a song called Death Cab for Cutie on their first album, Gorilla, in 1967. Getting fired. You know how many people died from being burned at the stake, right? Massive Attack. Just a band. Cancer Zodiac. The incredibly deadly viper. The fact that cyanide is in apple seeds. A dad sneeze. The brown recluse spider. They kill approximately 1 person per decade. Dihydrogen monoxide. Sea lampreys. Look menacing but actually aren't that harmful to humans. I heard a story of a swimmer that had one attached to him. Monsieur, they won't kill you. But I can't imagine how grossed out he must have been. Drinking any kind of venom unless you have an ulcer. Sharks. Melanosis. It sounds bad because of the association with melanoma, but in fact is simply a condition where a body produces too much melanin, the pigment responsible for the darkening of skin and hair. Gardener snake. Garter snake. Dargo from Farscape. Also War from Star Trek TNG. 3 million volts. The saying, someone has tussies. In other words, saying they have a cough. Bay leaves. Mom warned us not to eat them when she used them in cooking because apparently they were poisonous. In it goes. My dad. Gripping a blade. A blade can only actually cut you if your hand slides across it. You can grip a knife or other bladed object as hard as you want, but nothing will happen to you. Because of this, several sword techniques in the Middle Ages were put to use, such as half-swording, using the sword's guard as a club while gripping the blade. I have a couple of kitchen knives that will absolutely cut you if you gripped the blade hard enough. I'm not sure how sharp people kept their blades in the Middle Ages, but I doubt they were quite as sharp. I have seen medieval drawings depicting people using their guards pommel as a bludgeon, so I agree with you that it was used. Sodium chloride. It's called salt. Coronavirus. As diseases go, it is pretty deadly. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.